stoked that somebody's here to see you. His name is Black Zombie. Word.
Good stuff, man. That's what everybody's been talking about.
Yes. This is the 2020 version of Miles Little Red Book.
Everyone's talking about it, man. I don't know. What's it gonna cost me?
What do you got?
Yo, yo. Show what we got. Frodo's. Brand new off the press. Gateway plastic.
Are these authentic Black Zombies?
Authentic. New mid-range,
Nice.
new cutter. It's all here.
You want 2 books?
Man, if this will give me 2 books, that's great. Just to start, I'll get you more though. I'll get you more of this. That is a #1 seller, right?
#1 bestseller under the category of golf bags by Hypocrisies on Amazon.
Oh my gosh.
Right here in the front.
I know, boys. We want the front or inside cover? Signature?
Inside.
Inside cover.
Both of them.
Yep.
Be careful. Very valuable.
So you suggest like a chapter or 2 at a time? Can I handle 2 chapters at a time?
If I were you, I would read a page a day for the next 219 days.
Page a day.
There's so much gold here, you couldn't handle more than 1 page a day.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Alright, it's glitchy. You need to turn your volume up.
You what?
Speak loud.
Alright guys, welcome to Cover 3. This is Black Zombie Disc Golf YouTube channel. Got Scott Stokely here. Just want to do a fun intro. Hopefully not glitching too much, but we're here to talk about the Scott Stokely Growing Up Disc Golf book. So we're in Austin, Texas right now. How long have you been in Austin?
I've been in Austin for 24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah, I stayed with my good friend Crunch Schumann,
Okay.
the best disc golfer at his house.
That's awesome. He'll appreciate that. And before that, you were in San Antonio or Houston?
I was in San Antonio before that. I was in Corpus Christi before that. I was in Houston before that. I actually did 36 private lessons in Houston in 9 days, 4 private lessons in Corpus Christi, 16 private lessons in San Antonio. I'm doing 12 private lessons in Austin, and I have 24 scheduled in Dallas. So I'm pretty much driving around the country now doing disc golf lessons full time.
And you said you're booked, but if somebody wants to reach out to you, is that something you're still looking in the future, like after this month's done?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing this in February. I'm probably coming back to Texas. I haven't quite decided what state I'm going to be in. That's my life. But I'll probably come back to Texas and then head east along the south where it's warm. Probably heading towards Georgia through February. It's my tentative plan, but that could change tomorrow.
You know, you talked a lot about, you even had some videos on how to throw backhand, sidearm.
Yeah.
You're a really good teacher by breaking down the basics. Like some people who are really good pro players, they don't really translate that to players, but you've been really good about being able to teach players from the ground up how to play disc golf.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I wrote the first book on disc golf throwing technique, released the first 3 instructional DVDs. I would say I got probably 75% of it right. I literally wrote the book on how to, literally wrote the book on how to throw golf discs. I got things wrong. My apologies to the people that I screwed up with bad information, but we didn't know what we were doing. We were watching each other and taking notes. That's literally how it started. No YouTube. We had videos, bad videos. So yeah, kind of learned as I went.
Yeah, and how important do you think that is? Like I know when I started playing back in like 92, 93, I had some of your videos, but we didn't really have access to all the YouTube channels, inspiration on how to throw. I felt like, I still feel like I'm trying to like fix some of those problems I had in the early days of trying to throw it right. But these new kids coming in, they know how to throw right from the start, and they jump on the circuit and start playing at a higher level.
Yeah, so YouTube videos are a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of bad information out there. A lot of people think they can teach disc golf because they've taught 2 or 3 people and they've studied film. They're getting a lot of stuff wrong. Some of the stuff they're getting right, they're teaching poorly. You know, and I always say it's not that I'm any smarter or better than any of these people. It's just that I've been doing this for 43 years. They've been doing it for 43 days. And they're screwing people up. There's certainly information that's good. You see a larger talent pool of people, but you're also dealing with a much larger talent pool of individuals. I mean, when you have 20 times as many players as there were back in the 90s, you're going to get good players even with bad information. And there, unfortunately, is some bad information out there. Some really bad information.
Yeah, one thing I've heard too is that a lot of these really overstable discs kind of fixes this problem. People with a faster arm speed that want to throw far, they have to worry about the finesse and the style of throwing as much because they can actually depend on the fact it's not going to flip over on them. Is that kind of a bumper, so to speak, for some of these disc golfers out there?
I mean, a lot of people traditionally. Okay, so the dumbest question I've ever gotten, which I've gotten 1,000 times over the years, is
It's not on my list.
It's not on your list. No, not yet. The jury's still out.
Yeah, it's coming.
The question is, what's your sidearm disc? That is the exact same question as, so what's your backhand disc? So what disc do you like to throw for your backhands? It's dumb. There's as many left to right holes, if you're a right-handed player, as there are right to left holes. You take a mirror image of a hole, there's just as many flight paths or trajectories needed on a sidearm as the backhand. Every disc in your bag is a backhand and a sidearm disc. It's not backhand and sidearm, it's clockwise and counterclockwise spinning discs. Traditionally, players have thrown over stable discs because when you throw a sidearm, the challenge with the sidearm is that spin doesn't happen naturally. That's why this is frisbee, because when you do this, the disc spins. When you do this, the disc doesn't spin naturally. Spinning a disc sidearm is a learned and developed skill. If you don't have it, you don't spin it enough. Don't spin it disc enough, it becomes overstable. A disc that's wobbling, which means it doesn't have enough spin, becomes more understable, is more forgiven when you have an overstable disc that's going to tail off the direction you're throwing it. Throwing an overstable disc on your sidearms is compensating for poor technique. That's it. You know, there are shots for an overstable disc, but that's a percentage. It's the same percentage of shots that you want to throw an overstable disc on a backhand. Now, when you throw faster, discs become more unstable the faster they go. An overstable disc will fly truer for a person who throws far, but that's because of their technique. They throw far. That's it.
It's kind of what Dave McCormick was telling me. He was talking about how he'll make these discs like back in the day to fly a disc as opposed to just force a disc. So he was kind of talking about that same thing, needing you want to really watch the flight of a disc and you're going to throw a less stable disc and kind of manufacture that flight yourself.
I don't know what that means. I mean, you have to shape different shots. You need this to do different things. That's it.
So when you first started playing disc golf, I guess you used that understable disc. What did you start with?
No, I started playing frisbee golf.
Oh, that's right.
I played the very first course in the world when there was one course in the world in 1976. I did start playing every day for about 4 years after that, but I started at Ground Zero. We threw frisbees back then. They were Wham-O frisbees. At some point in the late 70s, Wham-O started adding an additive. They started adding a glow additive to make their frisbees heavier, and then they rebranded them. So the 40 mold became, or sorry, the 141 became the 40 mold. The 165 became the 50 mold. I'm getting confused now. I was younger back then.
And these are your typical frisbees you're talking about?
Yeah, they're store-bought frisbees made heavier. And when you make them heavier, they flew further. Those were the first golf frisbees. Frisbee's a trademark of Wham-O. So that's what we threw, and everything was unstable back then. There was no such thing as no stable base.
Right. So let's see here. Oh, in the book you're talking about. Well, tell me about the book. Tell me like some of the what were you going through in the book when you decided at the point to write the book and put your life down? Were you going through the whole process, or were you just started writing from the beginning? Like, I'm going to start telling my story.
Okay, so the first one I wrote it with a co-author named Aaron Raff, who's brilliant. And the first draft. Here, wait, let's do this. That's a handsome MF there. The first draft of the book was 126,000 words, and it was a series of anecdotes. This happened in my life, this happened in my life. It's all related to disc golf for most of it. It was a series of anecdotes, and when I was done with it, with the first 126,000 words, I said, we need to scrap this. It's terrible. It wasn't a story. There was no cohesion between the different events. There was no, this happened, and later this, I learned this from it, or nothing was tied together. It was just a series of short stories, which is fine, but I was not impressed with what I had done. But my co-author Aaron said, you know, the art of writing is rewriting, and the book went through 6 complete revisions, start to finish, where we actually took the entire book all the way through, edited it, tied stuff together, moved stuff around. We spent a year doing that, an hour to 2 a day for a whole year, and eventually it turned into a story. And it's the story of me, my first 25 years, well, starting at age 7. Before then, I don't know, I don't remember before then, but it's also the first 25 years of disc golf. So it's the story of disc golf through my eyes. You know, I don't talk about, there's no names and dates. When I talk about when the first commercially available beveled edge disc appeared, the Eagle, the story was, I was there when the box opened up, and we saw the first disc to change the sport. That's the day frisbee golf became disc golf. There had been discs before then, but none of them created a paradigm shift the way the Eagle did from Innova. Originally, it was called Champion. That's what made the sport go from this to this, right? So the story is what it was like to open up the box and go out in the field and throw these things. Then I talked about the radical changes that happened in the sport. Entire courses became obsolete overnight. You know, when you throw frisbees, a 250-foot hole was a decent little par 3. A 350-foot hole was hard. All of a sudden, you put out beveled edge golf discs, it became a game of finesse. The sport changed. The world changed for us at that point. It was revolutionized, and so the story is what it was like to be there, not here's the date it happened. I think all of us have been in high school and had to memorize names and dates of things. That's not interesting. That sucks.
But what is interesting is I understand that your first job maybe was you had a disc golf shop that you bought at an early age.
Yeah, I think I might have been the first disc golf pro shop employee. I don't know that for sure, but the first pro shop was in Morley Field in San Diego. Snapper Piercing opened it up, and then Mark Horn opened up the Mungazine store at Oak Grove Park in Pasadena, and I was their first employee. So I might have been the first disc golf pro shop employee, maybe not. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of years, my best friend Matt Goodwin got a settlement from a traffic accident as a kid, and he loaned me $5,000. Me and him bought the pro shop for $10,000, and so I owned the pro shop at the world's first disc golf course in 1987. And at the time, I think there were 3 in the world at that point. could be wrong, but I think so.
What's the most recent change in disc golf that's kind of elevated to the next Macbeth level, if you will?
What do you mean the next?
Like, it seems like we keep getting these pops. Like, the last couple of years, it seems like we've got another pop. Everyone's going, oh, we're going mainstream. It looks like we have gone more mainstream than ever before. But is it because of the player? I know, I agree. But is Macbeth the one that kind of pushed the envelope, or is it these new discs and spreading? Like, what?
I think it's just a point of hitting critical mass. You know, we kept thinking the sport was going to blow up tomorrow. We thought that in 1983, that tomorrow the sport's going to blow up. But what's been better than the sport blowing up is it's been a sustained growth of something like 15% for 43 or 45 years in a row. I don't think the sport's dipped a single year. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but by all measures, disc sales, PDGA membership, tour size, numbers of courses, I mean, the sport's grown steadily for 45 years and hasn't stopped. And it's not stopping. So I think a lot of it is just, there's a correlation. I mean, if the sport keeps going 15% a year, it starts here, it winds up here, all these things happen along the way. There wasn't necessarily a catalyst for every one of them. That could have just happened. I do think Paul is one of the best things to happen to the sport because it's our sport's first hero. You know, like, when I was touring, people would bring me out to tournaments, and there Climo was playing. It's not that there weren't first names in the sport, but he's the first hero. I mean, he really is. He's the biggest name that there's ever been. He's the best player that's ever played. And he's so far on a different game than everybody else that you can get behind that. He's a one-man dynasty, you know, like, the Yankees weren't bad for baseball. They were bad for all the small market teams, but they weren't bad for the sport. Patriots aren't bad for football. Lakers and Celtics weren't bad for basketball. Tiger wasn't bad for golf, right?
He's kind of spearheading it. Like, he was the first one that was getting the big sponsorships, like, from the bigger companies that were outside of disc golf. That's kind of a big thing because we're all cheering him on, going, okay, great if we get these different shoe companies or Nike or whoever might be jumping in on Oakley.
Yeah. But see, the measuring the sport's success, I mean, one measure of it is how much money some guy on tour is making. That's not how I measure our sports success. I measure our sports success by how many people enjoy the game, the fact that we are blue collar when we want to be. We have a professional pro tour, but then people still go out and drink a beer, play around the golf with their friends. And the fact that it's free, you know, there's always going to be room, and I love the fact that there's going to be a market for high-end courses. Courses are going to get more and more privatized. They're going to get better and better with all the amenities, and that's fantastic. But we also are free. Ball golf doesn't do that. Ball golf is elitist. Even if they're not trying to be, they're elitist. I don't want to be ball golf. I never want to be ball golf. Ball golf is great. Nothing wrong with ball golf. That's great for them. That's not my sport.
Yeah, for me, I got away from ball golf just because it takes 5 hours to play. You have to have a tee time. I think a lot of people who want to get outdoors and do something like a sport-wise, it's accessible by all these different people. So that's exactly kind of we lose looking at the marketing part, and we lose the fact that we have so many people out there playing disc golf.
So stupid. I went out to lunch with a kid that I did a lesson for in San Antonio. He's 12 years old. Went out with him and his mom. And he's a prodigy, right? He's very, very talented. He's very, very good. And he was talking about, but they're blue collar, right? And he was talking about, him and his mom were talking about ball golf. And I said, well, I'm glad you don't play ball golf. If you played ball golf, you'd suck. Because he's blue collar. He would not have the money to go out and be a competitor in that sport. There would be a ceiling over his head. He would never be a professional ball golfer. He would never have any hopes. I mean, he'd have hopes, but he wouldn't make it.
Even the driving range, you got to pay for that.
Yeah.
And this you can go to a soccer field and just throw frisbees.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I'm glad he's good at disc golf, because in disc golf he can succeed. In ball golf and there's a cap. It's a barrier. Like, I don't want to be ball golf. I've never wanted to be ball golf.
I hear you on that one. And it's kind of nice that you can go out and play with your family and friends of all levels, and it's an easier sport to learn. The first part, of course, there's a technical aspect to it to get really good, but anybody can go out there and have a good time the first time they're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is the same as golf. It just costs money.
I know this is our first time doing YouTube live, but are we glitching at all? Or?
Yeah, we had some glitch, and we need to turn your volume up a little bit.
Okay, talk a little bit louder.
Yeah.
So tell me about the book. What is the most proud moment in disc golf? Is there any certain point in disc golf that you realized that disc golf was saving you or helping you or kind of keeping you on track?
So, yes, but that's the second book, the biggest moment in my life. The book ends in 2001 when I quit touring and I quit the sport for 13 years. So the sport in many ways meant more to me later in my life. But that's like the second book will come out hopefully in about a year. The sport just gave me everything. It was my family, it was my friends, it was my identity, it was my career, it was my love, it was my hobby, it was my lover, it was my best friend, it was my everything. There wasn't a moment, it was everything to me. I mean, I took off in 2001 when my daughter was born, but until that moment, I ate, slept, and drank this game, this sport. So, not that it saved my life, it gave me life.
Right. I always thought of a round of disc golf as kind of like the microcosm of life itself, where when you're on that course playing 18 holes and you have a birdie or a bogey or an ace or out of bounds, you have to reflect on how do you respond to that. A lot of times you kick it bad, you get upset, or we learn to like, okay, you know what, it's not going to help the next shot if I get upset. Life's the same way. You don't always have different ebbs and flows, ups and downs. It's people learning how to deal with life on a disc golf course, I think.
Yeah.
And translating into like how they deal with like traffic or something else that's in your life.
Well, I don't get mad on the course. I've gotten upset once or twice over other players' behavior. I haven't gotten upset over a bad throw since 1989, not once. I mean, and I wrote about that a lot in the book because I was a very angry kid for no real good reason except that I just didn't think that life was fair, and I thought that, I hated Ronald Reagan. I hated racism and homophobia and war and all those shitty things in life that I still do. But I was very angry at the world because I was very pissed off at the way the world was. I didn't learn the balance of, trying to make my own world in my own bubble. So that translated to the course, and I was very upset over disc golf. I wanted attention, didn't know how to get it. I wanted the respect of certain people that I respected, didn't know how to go about and get that, so I ended up going the other way and just kind of being a punk. But I figured out in 1990, some things happened, I'll save it for the book, but some things changed in my life, and it all went away. It all went away in a minute.
So what kind of legacy, looking back at your whole career playing disc golf, is there any kind of specific legacy you'd want Scott Stokely to be known for?
In the sport?
In general, I mean, answer both, in sport or in life. I mean, obviously you're an inspiration to a lot of people because disc golf being part of your life, in and out, going back to it, and now you're doing full circle writing a book. But yeah, in general.
Yeah, so I mean, within the sport on a non-personal level, I love all the things that I did first. I was the first pro to tour the country merchandising, making a career of it. I was the first person to travel around the country doing throwing clinics. I was the first person to run a national disc golf series. I was the first person to write a book. I was the first person to write an instructional book. I was the first person to write instructional DVDs. There's quite a few more things. I was the first person to captain the American team at the Team US versus Europe Culture Class, the first person to travel with their partner, the first person, and so I got to be the first to do this. I'm not even sure I would have written that book had someone done it first. Like, I like being first. That's fun, it's exciting, it's challenging. I like getting stuff wrong because I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally writing a book on how to write a book on disc golf, or how to write a biography, right? What do I know? But I like the fact that I laid the groundwork for that. Like, every player out there traveling around doing clinics and running events, I mean, I started it. I'm very, very proud of it. Now, I'm not saying I'm inventing something that didn't exist in some other alternative sport. I'm not the first person to tell people to come out and teach them how to disc golf, but the model of how to travel around the country and be a touring player and make a living at it, I did start that. And I wasn't the first player to tour, but I didn't eat bread and bologna. In fact, I wrote about this in the book that when there were world champions living with their parents, I was making over $100,000 a year doing disc golf. Discraft was very, very good to me, but between the events I was running, the the clinics, the competing. Like I bought a house. I bought a house playing disc golf. Again, when like nobody in the sport had ever done that before, even been close. I mean, now it's Paul. We added 0 to it.
Right.
I couldn't be happier, and I love the fact that even Paul's success, I was a stepping stone to that in our sport. You know, turning it into myself as a brand. I mean, I like the fact that I laid the groundwork and that other people could step up after me and do it. The thing I'm most proud of in my entire career is Blue Power, but that's going to be in the second book. Working with kids with special needs and families was the most meaningful thing I've ever done.
And how does that go with disc golf? Do you have events that you bring them out, get them outdoors?
Yeah, so I went to 270 cities, and I taught kids with special needs, and I invited them out to the event. I paid for them. These were not full. I ran 20 events back east that were fundraisers, and I forget whatever percentage of the money went to an organization. But the remainder of those 270 events were not fundraisers. I came out. They were free for the kids and their families. Everybody that came out got a disc and a shirt just for showing up, completely free. I paid for it by people coming out to play Discraft MVP doubles afterwards. And I sold discs and I made money off the events. But every penny I made off those events went into my dirty little pockets. I would, fill up my tank, eat at a gas station, sleep at a rest area, get to the next town, right? I wasn't, but the money went to staying on the road to do these special needs events, which were free. Actually, towards the end, the last probably 100 and some odd events, when I started making a little more money, I was giving 10% to the special needs organization. I would have the club, actually there's someone right behind me from Wells Branch, I believe we did this at your event. When you would ask me, well, here's the money that we raised for the event, I don't even want to touch it. There's haters out there that are gross, that question your motives. So I would let the Wells Branch Club make the donation to the autism organization. I had to do that at everyone because there's bad people out there that don't get that people do good things and want to shit on it. So I went even hands free. But that was it. I taught families how to play disc golf, families with kids with special needs. That is the most proud thing I have in my life, outside of family stuff, the traditional stuff, but within the sport. My biggest accomplishment is probably writing a book. That was something that I set out to do. I wanted to do for years. The thing about doing things first is that most people talk about stuff. I pull the trigger on all my ideas. And so when I have an idea, I go out and do it. And not every time, a lot of ideas are bad, but I'm very proud of the fact that I sat down and took on this project and took so much time and effort and actually did it. And like the fact that like it came in the mail, I tried. I couldn't believe I'd actually pulled that one off.
That's awesome. So do you have, we now learn from you or other people showing us how to throw far, distance, or just better. Do you have mentors that were showing you arm speed and how to come across your chest? I know you might be the first one we've heard talk about keeping a straight line coming across your chest for your distance for your throwing.
Yeah.
Did people teach you that, or is that some of those things you developed yourself?
Okay, so what I teach, what I'm teaching as far as the lines in disc golf will make you throw farther, but that is not how you throw distance. There is a difference between throwing far and scoring well in the golf course. Are we still recording?
Yep, this one's on. I was going to make sure that one's on.
Okay, so what I teach on the golf course is not how you throw the farthest. It's how you throw far in golf, but not the farthest. I won't go down the rabbit hole, but there's some things that are taught as far as how to throw farther that I teach differently. And when someone says, well, I heard that you're supposed to do this because you'll throw farther, my answer is correct, you will. What's your point? All the guys in ball golf that are winning the long drive competitions would give their left arms to be on the PGA Tour. It's about scoring well. You still have to throw far, but the technique of throwing maximum distance is slightly different angles, different variables than throwing far. So yeah, they're right, that's how you throw farther. I don't care. I want birdies, not distance putts. I mean, this is different. So what I teach with the lines is you have to be able to replicate what you're doing. If you can't replicate what you're doing, you can't succeed. You have to be able to replicate it. Lines you can replicate, angles you can't. That's it. So if you put something on a line and you stay on the line, you can replicate that every time. You tell someone to do something at 10 degrees, doesn't matter if it's disc angle, run up, whatever, you might be at 8 degrees, you might be at 15 degrees, you won't even know the difference. It's so subtle, but that's 8 degrees of angle. You're throwing a shot off 8 degrees of angle at 400 feet or 300 feet is a birdie to a par, and you won't even know why. It's because you tried to replicate an angle. Try to replicate a straight line, you can do it all day. So my philosophy is that we want things we can replicate, lines you can replicate, angles you can't. I go with lines. Score better.
So if we go back and talk about, we kind of touched barely on the tournament director or running events.
Yeah.
And a lot of haters out there think that, oh, these guys are making some money. But those tournament directors work really hard to put those things together. I feel like the haters don't want them to get paid, but they're actually spending hours and days before the event even happens, let alone giving up their weekend. So it seems to me like they should be getting paid for doing this to inspire themselves to do more.
Yeah, so the haters that shit on the tournament directors, am I allowed to say go fuck yourself on YouTube, or is that against the rules? I probably shouldn't say that, right? Okay, so I won't say go fuck yourself to the people. You have no idea what's involved in running an event. When people go out and run an event, not only are they working their ass off, they have a team of volunteers. They've given up the time, they're away from their families, they're busting ass, and they are doing their best. Every tournament director is doing their best to try to put on the best event possible. They don't always succeed, just like you as a player don't always succeed. And to shit on somebody for that it's so gross. And what happens when you do that is those tournament directors don't run tournaments next year. You're wrong when you do that. Now, you can be critical of a tournament and a tournament director and the decisions they make. Absolutely. That's where you grab the person, you take them in private, and you say to them, first, I really appreciate all the hard work and effort you put into this event. Thank you so much for doing that for us. Can I give some constructive criticism? Now, if the person says no, I have a problem with that too, but they won't. They'll say yes, and then you say, cool, here's what I didn't like. Then you tell them what you didn't like, absolutely. But you do that in social media, and you're derogatory, and you're rude, I don't even care. I just wish you would, but I can't say go fuck yourself, so I won't. I'm being honest. I'm being honest. You have no idea what's involved in running a tournament, especially if you've never run one, especially a major tournament.
I've seen some very good tournament directors come and go, like professional wise, and
Yes.
they just kind of get off the circuit. Like, you know what? I run a business over here. I'm busy. I got a family. I'm just not gonna run a tournament because people are.
Why? Why would you?
Yeah.
And it's so unfair. You have no idea what's involved. I mean, things come up. You make the best laid plans ever to run a tournament, and then it kind of goes the way you were thinking it was going to go. I've run an 8 here before. I've run tournaments. I've run 440 events around the country, small ones, and every once in a while it goes the way I've planned. Once in a while. I mean, you have no idea. Like, I'm joking. I'm not, trying to be disrespectful, but joking, not joking. Tournament directors, it's a labor of love. And by the way, they're making money off it? Yay, good. That's called capitalism. Capitalism is where our sport, you want the sport to grow and people are going to make money at it. That's it. All the money that goes in to sponsoring events is all driven, well, not all, but it's mostly driven by people who are making money. If I put $100 into this tournament in sponsorship, I hope I'm going to sell enough sandwiches to get $101 back. They're trying to make $1. It's capitalism. We're driven by money. Capitalism is a great thing. So if the tournament directors are making money, great. If making more money wants to make them work harder on a bigger event, great. If they're that's fantastic. Good. They should all make money. And if they volunteer, bravo, but they shouldn't.
Agreed. So we talked about this before the camera's on. Brody Smith is making his move into Discraft, or Discraft has picked up Brody Smith, and we talked about you making a change from playing frisbee into disc golf, and you made the change. But that's a hard thing to do, right? Because it's a different way of throwing a disc. So if you've thrown the frisbee too long, it might be hard to throw a disc.
There's a challenge that comes from going from ultimate or frisbee to disc golf. You have to view them as different sports. If you play basketball, it doesn't mean you can play baseball, even though they both have ball in the title, right? It's the same thing. I mean, there's some mechanics that are the same, but there's as much unlearning to be had as learning. If you're good at ultimate or good at frisbee, then you're coordinated. You have eye-hand coordination, you're coordinated, you're skilled, you're athletic. Maybe you have the body type for it. So it can translate, but you have to reinvent yourself. I mean, I do I think I mentioned I'm doing 104 private lessons in Texas. I'm booked out through the end of the month. So I have 26 days of the 31. I've got 4 lessons scheduled. I've booked, sold out for the month. And in that group of 104 players, there's some ultimate players that have come out. And I tell them, it's fantastic. I'll make you into a disc golfer like that. But it didn't happen automatically. It's a learned skill. They have to be willing to throw away some ideas. In fact, I start with, the way I start that lesson is, I start with, forget everything you know about playing Ultimate. We're starting from scratch. I don't even ask them to throw a disc to see how, I know how to throw an Ultimate disc. They throw it not like you throw a golf disc. So I just say, look, you've never played disc, you've never played Frisbee before in your life, start from scratch. And then we build up. We don't try to adapt their throw. That's the wrong way to teach. But this just comes from teaching. I don't try to tweak what they throw. I start over.
Right on.
By the way, Brody Smith's talented. He's also a genius in self-promotion. He's got Discraft behind him, which is a fantastic company. So he'll be successful. I don't know where his ceiling is, but he'll be successful.
Sure. I'm kind of interested to see that, just like, especially after talking to you, see how that translation does work. I know he's played disc golf for a little while, but now he's like going full-fledged to see kind of what kind of player he can become. I'm kind of excited to see that.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And he brings a following, so he's going to put eyes on Discraft. It's a great promotional move from them. So win for everybody.
So I was going to ask you this question here. So is Innova really getting what they deserve after years of keeping the sport on lock? And this just comes from people saying from back in the day, Innova tried to keep disc golf as their thing, but then Discraft, other companies, Gateway, started breaking through.
So what Innova did was they ran a business successfully. That's it. They won. They ran a successful business. Innova and Discraft put more money into the sport. You can't even compare the amount they did. The sport exists today because of Innova and Discraft. So did they get what they deserve? I don't even know what that means. They made a lot of money and they deserve it. That's what they got.
I think the big deserve thing was, it seemed like Discraft took Macbeth, which I'm sure there's other kind of conversation behind the scenes.
That's fantastic.
That seemed like they
Awesome.
made that move, which I think that's where they kind of had to figure out who they're going to get, because they lost a top player, then they got Paige Pierce.
I mean, it's Paul's world. I mean, if you were playing chess, I don't want to say that sounds bad, but like it's Paul's world. I mean, go ahead and go after the other players. Paul moves the meter more than anybody, maybe more than everybody combined, to win for Discraft. That's it. Is Innova going to suffer? How do you suffer when you've already won? I don't know. I guess maybe I have rose-colored glasses, but if you've made this much money, how does making this much money next year hurt you? I mean, like, yeah, I think
like there's plenty of room for all these companies. Dynamic Disc is blowing up.
Dynamic Disc is a fantastic company. They've done a lot for me in Blue Power. I'm throwing a lot of their discs. Costaplast is great. RPM Discs is great. Gateway's great. UK Discs is a company that's going to blow up. No one knows about it yet. UK Discs is one that's going to blow up. Daredevil is going to blow up. I love all the small companies. Legacy, those guys are great. I like everybody. You're not going to say a bad word about anybody.
Right.
Sorry.
No. So it used to be always like people say, do you throw a rock or a buzz? We talked about this earlier. The Truth, you put that in the same category as far as another mid that's worth saying.
I like the Truth for the rock shots. I like the Piwaka Waka from RPM as a slightly unstable mid-range disc. P-Walk.
P-Walk?
The P-Walk, yeah. RPM disc is going to blow up. They're on it.
Where are they from?
They are from New Zealand.
Okay. And what's the Costaplast you said?
Costaplast is a company that a friend of mine runs out of Sweden. And they're actually going to do a signature disc for me. The Berg is my favorite disc in the world. The Berg from Costaplast. It's a putter, extremely slow. It's just perfect. I mean, you just throw it, it just goes by the hole. For everybody, every throw, it never has a bad shot. I don't know. It's a perfect disc.
When it comes to sponsorships, do you think more players are going to go that direction where they're not going to be with a specific company? They're going to, kind of like Feldberg's doing right now, and you just said a company's going to make you a disc?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I I want to work with smaller companies, although I love Dynamic. They're not small. There's some things about Dynamic that I want to connect to. I want to connect to one big company, but I personally want to work with smaller companies. The reason why it's just pure ego, nobody, I'm not a competitive player on the Pro Tour, so I can't move the meter for Discraft or Innova or anybody else. No one cares what I throw on that global scale. So it's just more for my own ego. If I win a tournament throwing one of the small companies, I'm on their homepage. They're talking about it. That's fun to me. So that's more fun. I don't care. I don't want their money. I don't care. I just like throwing their stuff, helping out my friends. I like the small guys. I switched to Discraft when they were probably 5% of the market. That's fun.
What was that 5%?
I'm just estimating. 95.
Okay.
I prefer being with the little guy, going after the big guy. Mm-hmm. That to me is more fun.
Different growth.
Yeah, I plan on winning the Glass Blown Open, and I want to do it with Costaplast, Dynamic, RPM, UK Discs, and Gateway. That's fun to me. I plan on winning the Grandmaster at that tournament. I plan on winning Grandmaster at every tournament I play, and I want to do it with discs that no one's winning major tournaments with. Like I threw MVP a couple years ago for a season. I was the first player to win. I was playing in an open. I was the first person to win the Pro Open division at an A tier, throwing exclusively MVP discs. It wasn't a big. It was an A tier. It wasn't a major, but Ulibarri was there. Matt Dollar was there. Drew Gibson was there, and I'm the old guy, and I won by 12 strokes throwing MVP discs. It was really cool because if I'd been doing that for Innova or Discraft, it's not even barely a blurb in their thing. On MVP, it blew up. It was a really big deal to them that someone threw their discs and won a second level major tournament. Like that meant more to me personally. So I'm just doing it for fun.
That's awesome. And you know Dave McCormick at Gateway pretty well.
Yeah, Dave's
when I talked to him, he said you guys go way back.
Yeah, Dave's one of the best humans in our sport. Can I let out a secret about Dave?
Can we?
Yeah, I'll let out a secret about Dave. I think Dave runs Gateway Discs so his friends have a place to work and so he can help out fellow disc golfers. He's probably hating me for saying this, but
you're saying he has a big heart.
He has a huge heart, but you don't know it because he's not talking about it. But Dave is there for his friends, and he I think in some ways Gateway gives him an opportunity to employ people that need a job that he cares about. I really think that's part of his motivation. He wants to make good discs, and he does. But I think he's driven by more than, he's definitely driven by more than money. He's trying to do good things. Dave pioneered, the first good golf bag was made by Dave McCormick at Gateway. That's it. Dave started the high-end bag, good quality bags. Before Gateway, bags were a joke. Dave started that. And so, he's a pioneer. He deserves all the credit in the world.
I like it. So like you said, you're probably going back to Texas in February to do more clinics, more lessons.
Yeah, well, I'm going to play the Waco Charity Cup, or Charity Open. Mm-hmm. Texas States, Glass Blown. I'm going to play some of the big tournaments. But I'm also going to be doing lessons, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing in February. How can I? I'm doing my lessons a week out right now. I'm scheduling. If I want to do 28 lessons next week, I'll schedule 28 lessons. I can't necessarily do them all in one town. If I go to Louisiana, it might be 2 days in Baton Rouge, one in Lafayette, one in New Orleans. Then maybe shoot up and I'll go up to Little Rock and do three days. But I can fill 28 lessons next week if I want. So, by the way, that's another first. So, I'm going to travel around wherever my heart desires, and I'm going to schedule lessons and events wherever I feel like going.
Have you thought about doing podcasts? You seem like you like to talk.
I've done a few
golf.
podcasts. I had a few that I stopped for a year, a large extent because I was writing the book, that I want to start again while I'm on the road. I'm on the road now, and so at least this year I'm going to be on the road. No idea about after that, but I have some ideas. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that too.
And how old are you now?
50.
So just 50, right on.
Yeah. I'm elderly.
Not so much.
I'm pretty much, I'm like almost dead.
Just starting. Like you said, you got like book 2,
Well,
book
actually,
3 coming.
the day you're born, you're just starting being almost dead, right? But no, yeah, I'm gonna do a second book. Well, I'm gonna be re-releasing my disc golf instructional book, which I released in 2000. I'm gonna re-release it. I'm planning on March 1st. I'm gonna release another book. I'm planning on same time next year. I think I need about 12 months. I have a better idea of the process now. So the next book's gonna be 2001 through fairly modern day. It's another disc golf story, an entirely different one.
Right.
Very dark at times. I had some ups and downs in my years away from the sport. And
Did you miss it when you're in those dark days?
No.
Did you ever think about it? No, just kind of like
I missed
it wasn't-
I missed the people in it.
Yeah.
The problem is that I was having problems with my back and I couldn't compete at the highest level. I could still go win a little local B tier, but I didn't really, at the time, I didn't get anything out of that. I mean, I won most of the B tiers I played. It didn't matter. I wanted to compete at the national level, at the world level, and when I couldn't do that, I didn't have an interest in competing. And I couldn't bear to go out to tournaments and just show up and play. Like my heart wasn't there, and so I knew that when I stopped playing, I was going to quit and drop out completely. Because either I'm going to focus and train and dedicate myself, but when I knew my body wouldn't let me anymore. I was just losing. I didn't know.
Right on. Take that.
She is making the coolest disc golf pin. I mean, it's quality stuff I've seen. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you know a woman who plays disc golf, you want to get in on this.